Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1. Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports.
And welcome everybody to FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. This is the Fighting Irish Daily Blitz, and I'm your host, Rob Fidoff, also known as RPT. You can find me on Twitter at PFidoff. So for episode 76, we're going to focus on yesterday's blue and gold game, the spring game for 2023 for the football team. But first things first, for episode 76, I just want to get some things out of the way. I'll have more on this later in the year about the men's and women's team once we have a firm hold on who's going to be a part of the team next year. But there's been some developments this week with the transfer portal and for both us receiving new players or players leaving. So for the women's side, Anna, I think I'm pronouncing this way, her last name correct, but it's either DeWolf or Daywolf. I want to say DeWolf. 5'8" guard out of Fordham. Pretty solid player, graduate student. She's going to be coming to Notre Dame. My only thing with this, 5'8", great shooter. We need more height, though, for this team. I know we did lose Dara Mabry, and this will help because we did, when we lost her last year, that was more of a loss than I thought. So we're getting that shooting back, but we have got to find a center or a power forward for the women next year in order to compete for a Final Four berth and a national title as well. So Anna DeWolf, guard from Fordham, 5'8". She'll be a graduate student next year for the Lady Irish. And then for the men's team, Ben Allen Lubin, talented freshman last year. However, he has entered the transfer portal. He has left Notre Dame, or he will be leaving. I don't think he'll come back. However, we did pick up a player this week for Coach Shrewsbury, Julian Roper II. He still has 2 years left. He's from Northwestern, 6'3" guard. He was hurt for the most part this year, but Coach Shrewsbury found a lot of players that weren't the best from other teams. And when he was at Penn State, he was able to use that transfer portal for kids that really weren't playing the best, but they found their niche at Penn State. And hopefully he can do the same thing for Notre Dame's team. And then also his son, Braden Shrewsbury, a 6'2" incoming freshman, will be a part of the team. And then this week, incoming freshman Marcus Burton, he's out of Penn High School, close to, I believe that's in Mishawaka, or it's close to South Bend. Anyway, he was named Mr. Basketball for the state of Indiana. He's going to be a player. But here's the thing, and I know next year's going to be just, we'll see what happens. We got to be very patient with the way this team is currently. It is still, to me, a mess. But right now, there's still only 6 players, and that may be down to 3 at any point. The only people or players coming back next year, if they do stay, I mean, they could still enter the portal, and that's a very strong possibility. Matt Zona, Tony Sanders, and J.R. Kaznesny, they were on the team this past. JR sat out the year. He was hurt. Matt Zona will be a redshirt senior, but he still has 2 years left, I believe. And then Tony Sanders, the same thing. If they leave, we're down to 6. So right now, if you we have those 3 players, incoming freshman, Mr. Basketball at the state of Indiana, Marcus Burton. And then we have Coach Shrewsbury's son, Braden. And then the transfer from Northwestern, Julian Roper the second. Only 6 players. We got to get some more. I know 6 players does field a team, but that could be down to 3 players at any moment. So still a lot of work left for Coach Shrewsbury. From what I've heard, he's hitting the transfer portal hard. He's recruiting his tail off right now. So let's give him some time. Next year could be even a worse record than this year, but I still think there's probably going to be more talent, even if it's only 3 or 4 standout players next year, because this year was just a disaster. So just be patient. But once I have more on who's going to be on the team for sure, I will do a podcast on both the men's and women's teams. So let's get to the spring game. This is going to be a pretty quick podcast, your typical spring game. But before I get to that, one other thing, Cormac Ryan, he had entered the transfer portal, leaving the Notre Dame program. He's going to play at North Carolina next year, so good luck to him. They need shooting help big time. There's a lot of talent on that North Carolina basketball team, They found out this year when Brady Manick, the graduate student from Oklahoma they got last year, the kid that looks like Larry Bird, once they lost him, that team couldn't shoot worth a shit. So Cormac Ryan, I bet he plays a lot next year. I don't want to say he's going to be a starter, but he's going to definitely give them some shooting help is what I'm trying to say. So having said that, the spring game on Friday, it was the news broke, and it wasn't much of a shocker, but Lorenzo Styles, the second talented wide receiver out of Pickerington Central here locally in Central Ohio. He would have been a junior this year, and wide receiver, had a decent freshman season, took a step back last year as a sophomore, and we have some really talented wide receivers coming in. The rumor was he was slowly starting to fall in the depth chart, and Notre Dame coaches had offered to switch him to the defensive side to be a cornerback, which he played in high school as well. However, he didn't want to do that either. So he has entered the transfer portal. He will be leaving Notre Dame. I thought he at least, try to fight it out. I know sometimes competition can make you better, and he didn't want to do that. And, hey, if that's the case, more power to him. But I would at least, he's going to be a junior this year. And I think, with, summer classes as well, he's probably getting closer, or I wouldn't say close, but Drew Pine graduated in 3 years. He probably could have toughed it out this year. If he fell even further in the depth chart, so be it. But I would have got that Notre Dame degree. And I think Coach Freeman said that in one of his press conferences too. He supports whatever decision he makes, but he thinks too, he would at least stick it out one more year, get that degree, because a Notre Dame degree will take you places, but he's going to transfer. And I think he'll probably go to Ohio State to be with his brother Sonny Styles. That's where their dad went as well. But he's not going to be playing a receiver at Ohio State. As we know, their receivers are just outstanding, just all Americans. He will have to play cornerback there. And Ohio State needs help at cornerback, but I just don't understand either. If they're going to move him to cornerback at Notre Dame, why not stay there a year? Because wherever you go, you're not going to be a wide receiver anymore. And that's just not working. You're going to have to be a cornerback. So why not stay where you can get that degree? Anyway, I can go on and on about that, but Lorenzo Styles has entered the transfer portal. So the spring game yesterday, it started out, the weather kind of cold. It was in the 50s, but then I think right at the end of the first quarter, it just started pouring big time. There's, from what various fans that were there saying, it was rain, sleet, snow, you name it. But then it stopped, but it was a cold, kind of dreary day. Nothing like last year when I was there, just a beautiful day. But the Gold ends up winning 24-0. And the big story was Sam Hartman. He will be a 6-year senior graduate student from Wake Forest. I always said there's no way he's not going to be the starting quarterback next year. I know Marcus Freeman is saying it's still a open-ended competition between him and Tyler Buckner. To me, that's just coach speak. Just, I don't want to say keep everybody happy, but maybe he's thinking too, if he says that, Tyler Buckner may stick around a little bit. He may enter the portal, but I don't want to give up on Tyler Buckner too much yet. The thing was too, both he and Sam Hartman had the red jerseys on, so that they really couldn't run yesterday that much because they were more or less drop back passing and they didn't want to get them hurt. So they really were limited to actually run the ball is what I'm trying to say. And Tyler Buckner's more of that run style quarterback. He can throw as well, but I saw it again yesterday. He's still throwing back on his back foot and he's rushing things and he still has a lot to learn. So I'm just, thank God we have Sam Hartman this year because he looked as good as advertised. I know it's a spring game and maybe our defense isn't as good as we think either, but still he produced. Any just common football fan or even people that don't really know football, if they watched that game yesterday, they would say, yes, this guy has to start next year. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll get into the stats real quick here because it's a spring game. I can't really say I couldn't even get defensive stats yesterday. So the Gold won 24-0. That was Sam Hartman's team. He was 13 out of 16 passing, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, 1 to Jaden Thomas, 1 to Matt Salerno. And then he also ran for one where I know I said earlier they were limited what they could do running wise. Well, it was only a 3-yard run for him, so there wasn't any defenders around him is what I'm trying to say. It wasn't like the defender had to hold up at all. It was a legit running touchdown is what I'm trying to say. Also for the goal team, even though he had the second string with him, Steve Angeli, I thought he looked okay. Some people thought he looked crappy. He was 8 of 12. Rushing the ball, Jabron Payne, he looked pretty good. He pretty much sat out last year. He's from Cincinnati, Ohio, 11 rushes, 51 yards. And then Jaden Greathouse, the early enrollee freshman at wide receiver. These wide receivers are as good as average. I know it's a spring game, but still, you could tell this is why Lorenzo Styles fell in the depth chart. He had 11 catches for 118 yards. And then the other Jaden, he'll be a redshirt sophomore, Jaden Thomas, 4 touchdowns, 71 yards, and a touchdown. The blue team, that was with Tyler Buckner. He struggled, 8 of 18, 1 INT for 44 yards. And then Aldrich Estime, 5 rushes for 20. And receiving-wise, they had 3 players with 2 catches, Deion Colsey, Holden Stace, and Chris Tyree. And then the field goal unit, Zach Yoakum had a 28-yard field goal. That's the first time I can remember there was shutout during the spring game. But 24-0 the Gold. Sam Hartman looked great. He will be our starting quarterback. I know Coach Freeman will say it's still an open-ended competition. I do not see that. I still don't want to give up on Tyler Buckner, but he's just not there yet. Thank God, keep Sam Hartman healthy. He was very quick in his decision-making. Just boom. He may not have the greatest arm, but man, he gets it out quick. He's very decisive. He throws a really good ball, and I'm pumped up. I'm just saying, pumped up. I'm not saying we're going to win a national title, but this is probably the best offense we've seen in years. My biggest concern, we'll get into this later in the season, is our defensive line and linebackers. I'm really confident in our secondary, especially with Benjamin Morrison. I know I couldn't get the defensive stats, but man, he made some plays again as a true sophomore. That kid is really good. So all I can say is Sam Hartman, he will be the starting quarterback unless some sort of just weird occurrence or injury. If he stays healthy, opening. And I kept saying all the time too, this will be the last thing I discuss for this. I kept thinking we open up Labor Day weekend. We actually play what they call week 0, the so-called unofficial start to the season. I believe it's August the 26th. So we end up starting a week earlier than what the typical college football season starts when we play Navy in Ireland. I don't know if it's because we play in Ireland because of the travel time to get over there, but I believe that game is August the 26th. So I will be, as we get more news closer to this game, but I think the next couple podcasts, I'm going to be, hopefully we can get these basketball teams set. That may take a couple more months, but I'm working on a podcast on a kind of a what if scenario. A lot of people think the basketball team, it was Coach Digger Phelps and then Coach Bray, who just that's another thing, who just retired from Notre Dame, but he's going to be an assistant coach for the Atlanta Hawks next year. Their head coach is Quinn Snyder. He was a player for Coach Krzyzewski from 1985 to 89 at Duke. He coached in the college ranks, got in trouble with probation at Missouri, and then he's been pretty much in the NBA since. He had a decent coaching stint with Utah, but then he got them so far, and now he's with the Atlanta Hawks. But Coach Bray will be helping him out next year for the Hawks. But I want to do a scenario where I think a lot of people just think it was Digger Phelps and Coach Bray, but in between there was John McLeod and then Matt Doherty. Matt Doherty there was 1 year, had a solid year, then went to North Carolina. That didn't work out. He's just been kind of here and there, and I always thought, what if he had stayed at Notre Dame? So that'll be a podcast down the road later this spring or early summer. So thank you so much for joining me for episode 76 for the recap of the Blue and Gold game. And as always, go Irish.